Hi, everyone. Welcome to Discovering Your Work-Life Balance. I know this is a resource that many of our students really need right now. I've seen a lot of conversations about procrastination and balancing your work-life load. So I'm really excited to provide this resource for you guys and introduce you to our lovely guest, Claire Kirsch. NSHSS lifetime member Claire Kirsch currently resides in Pennsylvania, where she works in social services as a licensed professional counselor. Claire is a 2018 and 2021 graduate of Mount Aloysius College, where she pursued a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology with a specialization in counseling and minors in choral performance and expressive arts, and her Master of Science in Community Counseling. Claire enjoys volunteering with local theater organizations and working on personal professional development. Claire currently manages the Hope Connection, a program focused on bridging the gap between the general public and mental health services. Claire has completed over 200 hours of community service over the past year, supporting organizations across Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, and West Virginia. So please help me in welcoming Claire Kirsch.
Thank you, Alyssa. I'm so happy to be here tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, everyone. I know this is something that has been heavily requested, and I am very excited to share, some mental health tips, how to create some balance in work life, all of that good stuff. So the first thing is the purpose of tonight's presentation discussion is to help increase your understanding of mental health, improve healthy boundary making, identification of values, how to manage your time, and overall decrease burnout. So first, looking at mental health and mental well-being. So if we look at the true definition of what mental health is, it includes our emotional, our psychological, our social well-being. It's how we think, how we feel, how we act. And it also plays a role in how we handle stress, how we relate and connect with others, and how we make choices. So mental health is overall health. It impacts all areas of our life. So mental health in the workplace has taken an interesting shift in the last few years. We've seen a significant increase in those seeking mental health support services. So roughly the statistics are currently 1 in 5 adults and 1 in 5 individuals under the age of 18 are actively receiving mental health services. We've also seen a very big increase in clinical language being used more commonly. This has been big with social media where people are more open to sharing their experiences. And so language that in the past might have been more clinical and more seen in lecture halls or within the professionals is now becoming understood by the general population, which is great. And we've seen mental wellness becoming a stronger focus across companies. So we've been familiar with the health initiatives of companies where you might get a discount to a gym. We're seeing more now that there's mental wellness. So even having mental health days built into your benefit packages or encouragement for how to set those healthy boundaries, that's being talked about more in the boardroom now, which is awesome. And that's where we've seen the shift in professional policies. So seeing people shift from a 40-day work week maybe to a 36, or giving flexibility in where you can work to help boost and improve your mental health, your mental functioning. So one of the biggest pieces of mental health as a young professional and as a high achiever is boundaries. And this is something that does not get talked about enough, especially if you are a high achiever. You have so many opportunities coming your way all the time. And so when you first step into the workforce, or you're working from making the transition from high school to college, or from college to working full time, boundaries become something that you become very aware of, but may not fully understand. So boundaries are your personal rules and limitations. So this is how you behave towards others. And it also helps to shape what type of treatment you expect from others and are willing to accept from others. So your expectations and what you're willing to tolerate, what you're comfortable receiving or interacting. Now, boundaries are very different from rules, and that's something that can be hard to decipher sometimes. A rule is a very strict expectation. So the example here would be, you can't talk to me on the weekends. That would be a rule. And you're allowed to have rules and you're allowed to have boundaries. The importance is to know the difference between the two. The rule is the expectation of someone else and their interaction with you. Whereas a boundary would be, if you message me on the weekend, then I will not respond until Monday. Boundaries are those if-then statements. If this thing happens, then I will respond in this manner. And so it's important to know like what boundaries you do have. This was one for me personally that I had to make that shift. Stepping into being full-time working in the professional field outside of school was, it's okay to set that boundary that if you message me on a weekend, I will respond to you on Monday. And that's very different from setting the, you can't talk to me on weekends, because everyone has different schedules. So making that a clear boundary with that if this happens, then I will respond in such and such way. So there's different boundaries that you can set within the workforce. And this comes across, while you're in high school, college, working full-time, part-time. So one of those is physical boundaries. So that could be like using headphones to show that you're not available to meet right now. And that can be something that you share with people. If you see me with headphones on, then I'm not available to collaborate right now. How much you're willing to let other people enter your personal space. Hope was doing a good example of that. That boundary of, if you enter my office, I expect there to be so much space between us, or we won't be communicating. You don't have to allow people into your personal space in that way. A big one too, solo lunch breaks. Sometimes you need space away from coworkers, away from your cohort, just being able to say, right now I need to take lunch on my own, and being able to be firm in that. Another piece too would be the communication boundaries. So how much are you willing to provide or share regarding your personal life? So that could be, what is your personal information? So if you need to, take a day and you have that time to use, that is up to you and your personal boundary, in addition to your job expectations as to how much you share. A tricky one is politics. If you are working in the political field, this isn't going to be able to be a boundary that you set quite as firmly, but more commonly, like, what are you willing or not willing to discuss in the political side of things? That is something that is your personal information, and you get to choose how much you're willing to divulge and how much you're willing to interact in situations where politics are being discussed. So it might be something, if politics are being discussed in the break room, then I'm going to, take my break somewhere else. And also it goes into how you prefer to receive feedback. And so you can still use those if-then statements. If you were going to give me feedback, then it would be most beneficial for me to hear it, in person, and then also follow up by email. There's also the emotional boundaries that come with being a young professional, learning how to compartmentalize, which can be a major challenge. Typically, how you'll hear this said is, leave work at work and home at home, and easier said than done. So compartmentalizing can be looked at as being present and focused on what you are currently pursuing, and being honest with your superiors, your teammates, the leadership, those that you are leading, regarding what is going on for you, um, and how you can best be supported in creating that distance between home and work. something that I'm taking this from the theater world. It's called raising the curtain. So it's the idea of before you go into a practice, you are stepping into a space and you are lifting that barrier between you and the room to work. So we call it raising the curtain, but it might be something different for you in the workforce. But that idea of that transitionary space, that I am intentionally stepping into this space of productivity, of whatever that may look like for you. And a big one here is setting limits on how you join in on that break room negative talk. Like everyone needs a vent session, totally get that. Um, but being able to say, like, if this conversation is being had, then I'm choosing not to participate in it. Because it can be really easy to get wrapped up in all of that. And so setting that limit for yourself of like, okay, if I need to vent, I have an outside person, my best friend who has nothing to do with this company, and can help me out with this. Another piece of that is our mental boundaries. So that includes establishing your work hours. So a lot of positions now you have the ability to set your schedule within a certain range. So setting your work hours and sticking to those can be very, very hard, but so important in setting a boundary. Something that's super helpful in maintaining those boundaries is setting away messages. If you use Microsoft Teams, if you use Jabber, I can't think of a single email platform that doesn't have an away message option that you can use to indicate to others, hi, my name is Claire. I am currently out of the office until, such and such day. I will respond to your email upon my return at this time. If this is an emergency, this is who you can contact. And then on top of that, we have, of course, avoiding gossiping about coworkers. I always tell people, don't say anything that you wouldn't say to someone's face. And that's one of my personal boundaries, that I don't say anything that I wouldn't be comfortable saying directly to someone. And so that has been a very helpful mental boundary for me in setting that limit, because there is a certain culture that comes with the workplace. And so being able to set that boundary for yourself that, I'm not going to join in on those things right now. I'm going to focus on myself and my own development. And boundaries transition very smoothly into defining your values. So values are something, I'm not sure how much you guys have done like a personal value card sort or taken like a quiz online to see like what are my ideal values, but it's something that we don't really talk about enough. A value is walking your talk and your beliefs aligned with your actions. So put more simply, your value is your why. It's why am I doing this? Why am I pursuing such and such opportunity? And it's more than just like the ideal version of yourself, because we all have values that it's like, this is what I'm aspiring to be, but that's separate than what our true values are. That's an aspiration. So our values are your actions combined with what you say you're going to do. And that's values are what make leaders such strong leaders. Leaders always have a clarity in their values. They know that, my biggest value is community service, or my guiding value is leadership, or my guiding value is faith. And leaders do more than just profess those values, they practice them and you see them in action. So if someone's guiding value is leadership, you're going to see them as president of, their class, or as the head of a team working on a project. Whereas if someone's guiding value is community service, you might see them on the weekends, volunteering at a soup kitchen, or, on their evenings, spending time, assisting with after school study groups. So this is adapted from Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, which I highly recommend if you haven't checked it out. Even if you're someone that you don't want to read the full book, there's lots of activities and like personal reflections that you can do, which are all available online for free, which is awesome. So this here is a personal values activity. So on the screen here, there's like so many values, and this isn't even all of them. So if you don't see what you're looking for, you can absolutely add your own. So the first thing I want you to do is to take a look at all of the values that are listed here. And I want you to pick the top 5 that you think, yes, that's one of my personal values. I'm going to give you about 15, 20 seconds to try to narrow it down. Okay. So now that you have picked, 5 values, I know it's hard to pick it in that short of time, but it's something that if you have to think too hard, then maybe it's not quite one of your top values. And so I want you to take your top 5 and I want you to bring that down to 1. And what we see a lot of times is our 4 other values tend to fall under our top guiding value. And so just take a second and narrow down your list of values to 1. Now, this is something that you can do multiple times. I've done this. I did this probably about 10 years ago, and what my top value was then is completely different than whenever I did this personal reflection back in May. And to see that shift, our values do shift while we're developing as a person. So what your values are as someone in high school could be different from your values as you are an established, professional. But what we'll see typically is the top 5 tend to like unite to be our one guiding value. So for me, when I last did this, it was security was my top value. And underneath that included the achievement, the teamwork, the cooperation. So those all line up with creating a sense of security. Where values come into play in creating that healthy mental health work-life balance is the difference between expectation and reality. So that disappointment, that burnout, that frustration can occur whenever the expectation is higher or lower than the reality of the situation. And a lot of times this occurs when we're not following our values. So I had listened to a talk earlier this week, and it was about like how should you put things on your resume? And it was talking about like, should I leave this on? Should I take this off? And if it's something that is really, the speaker had said, if it's something that's really important to you and you think it's important to include on there, would you want to work someplace that doesn't find that as important? And that was an interesting perspective to take, that, what our values are help determine, our satisfaction with employment, with schooling, with our extracurriculars. So if you're someone that really values like community service, you may not fully align with something that doesn't give back or contribute to their community. Or you may be more comfortable in a smaller organization that is very close to its community roots and sponsors the local baseball team. Whenever we align our work values with our personal values, we're way more satisfied with the work that we do. And it promotes your overall mental health because you're working with something. There isn't that cognitive dissonance of, I personally believe one thing and I'm doing another. Whenever our work values and our personal values align, we can be a whole person and be authentic whenever we're coming into work or to school or to class. And a good way to reflect on it is look at each decision or opportunity, situation that comes your way and asking yourself, does this bring me closer or further away from my goals? and using your values as part of that reflection. So does this align with my values? Yes or no? And does this align with my future goals? Yes or no? Because you're being a high achiever, like you have so many opportunities that come your way. So making sure that you're putting your time and effort into the ones that are helping you to reach those goals that align with your values. Another part of being a high achiever is looking at time management. I can reflect back on my time in high school and in college. Um, I used to joke that I was in every club except for two, which wasn't quite the truth. It felt like that though, but I think I counted at one point and there were 5 clubs I wasn't in high school. But that time management becomes key in finding that work-life balance. And whenever you are, a teenager, it can be significantly more manageable too, because you have things are more regimented for you. So it's like, okay, I have class from this time to this time. After class, I have practice 5 to 7. And then after practice, I have tutoring from 7 to 9. And then I go home, get a shower and do it all over again. So making that transition to the workforce, to higher education can be challenging because prior to that, a lot of time management has been on a set schedule. And now you're learning to make your own schedule. When it comes to time management, there are some key points. The first one is being present. So when you're managing your time, you want to be aware of the space that you are in to make the most of your time. This ties into mindfulness. We're not going to go a ton into mindfulness tonight, just because mindfulness is something that for some people, they're like, yes, this works super well. And for other people, they're like, oh my gosh, this makes my anxiety so much worse. So we're looking at mindfulness tonight in the concept of your body awareness, being aware of the space that you're in, being grounded or rooted in that space. Noticing like, okay, I am sitting in a chair and my feet are firmly planted on the ground. And then focusing on one task at a time whenever you're in that space, maximum of 2, because we think that our brains are really great at multitasking. And what we've found more recently is we do a lot of things quickly, but not necessarily to our best ability. So focusing on 1 to 2 tasks at a time and keeping a list of those tasks. I'm a big fan of keeping a book with me. I have a little notebook that I carry with me. And anytime I have, a thought that pops up or something that I'm like, that's interesting, I write it down, because if not, that can completely distract me from the rest of my day. So I write down the thought, I acknowledge it, and then I can come back to it later. And of course, phones are wonderful, so you can always take a note in your phone too. I know someone that they'll audio record themselves because they'll have a thought pop up and they're like, nope, I need to save that for later. And then they keep doing what they're doing. Finding your group is key for time management. You want to be surrounding yourself with like-minded people. So NSHSS is a great example that you have the opportunity to network with other peers, other members of that kind of special cohort that are seeking the same opportunities and have that same drive as you, because we become who we spend time with. So if we're spending time with someone who is a real go-getter and highly motivated, we're going to continue to have that high motivation too. And you want to seek out those that have the skills that you desire to have. I'm a big fan of like mentoring. So if it's something that I know I want to go into the science field, seeking out other people that are either working in the science field or have that same desire as you. And also creating like a support group or accountability group. In college, our cohort formed a group chat, and that was how we held each other all accountable. Like, hey, this paper's due on Friday. Anyone start it yet? Okay, well, we're all starting it tonight since we're all behind. But that idea of creating that network of people that want to see you succeed and want to succeed as well. Another key is create productive space. So setting yourself up for success. I say that like 10 times a day. You want to set yourself up for success. You probably won't do your best work laying on the floor of the living room, in your comfy clothes with your pet dog. It might be the most comfortable, but that's how you can relax whenever you need to really be focused in. I have an example here of this, like a very like neat picturesque desk. Everything is set up in a way. It's like we got our beverage, we got our notebook, we got our phone, we got our laptop, we got calendar, we're good to go. You want to set yourself up to avoid distractions. So finding a space that might be separate from your home. For me in college, I did all of my homework on campus. I had that separation for myself of all of my work will be done on campus. The library and the student center were my best friend because that's where I could set up, be around other people who were also working on their academics. And it was a place I knew I'm not going to be scrolling Facebook, not going to be, looking to see which new series I want to watch. I'm going to be focused and surrounded with that supportive group of people. And of course, like I said about the relaxing with your dog in your living room, planning that healthy time. So setting up time to take care of yourself, moving your body. If you are someone that is, sitting the bulk of the day, setting a timer and getting up to move around every 20, 30 minutes. Take a power walk on your lunch break. Standing desks are amazing. I love the ones that, adjust back and forth. Management of caffeine. Caffeine can feel like it helps, but a lot of times it can just make anxiety worse. So we want to make sure that we're drinking lots of water. You need water. Your brain loves water. And so whenever you are having that stressful time management of trying to figure out how do I get everything done, making sure you're drinking water because we need it to function. On top of that, using block scheduling, planners, to-do lists. Block scheduling is great. So you can literally, you just block off chunks of your calendar to say, okay, from 9 to 11, I am working on this calculus assignment. And then from 11 to 1, that is my relaxation or my lunchtime. And then from 1 to 3, I'm going to be, going to the gym or going to study group, and setting that up so that your day is laid out and it's a nice visual of seeing like, okay, this is how I'm using my time. You can color coordinate it. You can do it on your phone. You can do it like in a bullet journal, however you want, however makes sense for you to keep your thoughts and your day organized. And the biggest piece is setting reasonable expectations. Expectations have a lot to go in with how we set up a healthy work-life balance. So setting reasonable expectations for ourselves. So commit to what you can deliver. So I know if I have a project that, it's going to take me 3 days, I'm going to be upfront about that and say, this will take me 3 days. I will have it to you on Wednesday, versus saying like, oh yeah, no, I have 24-hour turnaround. I got you. Because then it makes it harder to manage that time. So commit to what you can deliver. Always, if you want to give yourself a little challenge, it might be like, oh yeah, no, I can have it to you in a day and a half, but I'm going to be realistic with myself to set myself up for that success. Also delegating, if you are in a situation where you can share responsibilities or work together collaboratively. Communicating your clear standards and expectations. So whenever you are delegating or are working in a group, being very clear about what your expectations are and prioritizing which opportunities you take. At this point in your life, I'm sure you've had tons of opportunities offered to you, and there's going to be so many more. So prioritizing, what is it that I want to be doing in 5 years? And is this an opportunity that's going to help me get there? Filling your time with things that are important to you, with the opportunities that are important to you. We want, things that we want activities and opportunities that align with our values, not just filler or fluff. So the overall key points that I have for, just how to create that healthy work-life balance is really leaning into your values, because your values help determine your path in life. Now, your values may slightly change as you age, but typically that's the same, like top 5 tend to be our like guiding values, our North Star, our compass throughout our lives. Surround yourself with supportive people, putting yourself in spaces with other people who are going to lift you up, who are going to hold you accountable, who are going to cheer you on, who are going to help you problem solve, taking care of your physical being, getting up, going for a walk, drinking water, doing some yoga, moving your body in whatever way that you can and what's comfortable for you. Even just taking a break at your desk and, like stretching your neck a little bit can make a huge difference. And overall, setting yourself up for success. So set clear boundaries, make them and communicate those boundaries clearly. Use your values to determine your path, your direction, and what you want to achieve. And time management, blocking out time in your schedule for what matters most to you, for what aligns with your values, setting those boundaries for what time you'll be using to accomplish those tasks or take on those opportunities, and avoiding filler or fluff, being very intentional with our time. I also wanted to note some additional opportunities for if you are seeking additional mental health support. So if you are in like school currently, your school guidance center is an excellent place to start. Most schools have either a psychologist or licensed social worker on their staff. Sometimes they have both. And so that would be an option to get support through the guidance office connected to those school professionals. Additionally, most schools are partnered with a local community mental health service, and they'll be able to help, get you in touch with those supports, those services. Some even have counselors that come into the school and meet during the school day. So always ask about those opportunities as well. If you are in college, most campuses do have a counseling center. Sometimes those are in conjunction with career development and student success, and sometimes they are separate for mental health counseling, ADA accommodations. Those are both excellent places to start. If you're looking for additional support in how to contact those people, reaching out to your department head or the director of student success. And a lot of times too, it is located on your college website. If you type in mental health or counseling, to get connected with those resources as well. And if you are currently in the workforce or transitioning to the workforce, a lot of companies do offer what's known as the employee assistance program. And so with those programs, you are typically provided 3 free counseling sessions. And that's something that is kept confidential. Your employer does not know, what you're talking about. But it typically covers 3 sessions and then can additionally connect you to longer term services if that's something that you'd be looking for at that time. Sometimes it helps just to, meet with someone and have someone help you kind of pick apart what's going on and figure out what's going to be the best step for you. So those are 3 amazing resources. Additionally, you can use the 988, which is the mental health emergency hotline, which if there would be, a mental health emergency that you can utilize and can be assisted in contacting local services as well. So I want to thank you for allowing me to speak with you tonight, and I am ready to take some questions.
Thank you so much, Claire. All of those tips definitely assist us in navigating our own personal struggles and just life in general. It's so difficult to be out here, and especially on Zoom and online, we're mostly talking to screen. So it's very important to hear these from a real person and get these real factual tips. So we do have one question from Micah. What if you are homeschooled? What help can you receive from school? And I know a lot of our students are homeschooled, and it is kind of a struggle to get these resources compiled and delivered to our students. So do you have a little bit of advice on that topic?
Absolutely. So if you are homeschooled, I would recommend if it's through like a structured online service, typically they do have um like some sort of like counselor or academic advisor in that regard. So inquiring about like what mental health they offer. Some do have like counselors that they are partnered with, and other times they can help connect you in your local area. If you are doing like homeschooling as well, if you are connected with your homeschool, um, connecting with them since you are still in their district. Additionally, if you're looking for like more um, like intensive services or maybe doing like weekly, bi-weekly counseling, you would be looking through potentially your insurance. Your insurance would have a number for you to call that would connect you with your care manager, who would be able to assist you in providing a list of providers that would take your insurance. If you're looking for more of just um, the support side of things. Um, there is the crisis text line, which is something there's counselors that are available and trained individuals to help process those mental health things. Yes, it is for those emergencies and those crises, but crisis looks different for everyone, and it could be just feeling incredibly overwhelmed or stressed. So in those situations, those services would be available as well. There has been an increase in like online services that are available for telecounseling that typically are available either through insurance or through like a partnership for a lower pay. Um, and I always recommend looking at, so one of the big ones would be SAMHSA.gov. They have a variety of services that they like a database, and then also the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is a nonprofit organization, and that can help you get in contact with your local chapter. And so local chapters for NAMI, they do different support groups, they do different educational opportunities, they have trainings that you can participate in. And it's not just for if you are experiencing some challenges with your mental health, it's also for family members of those who are experiencing those challenges. Um, and they also have a helpline as well that is available to assist with those moments of being overwhelmed, as well as connecting you to services.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very helpful. I know a lot of students mostly have their parents kind of doing these things for them, but sometimes it takes that little extra initiative or just asking questions in general to your parents or to Google and saying, okay, well, what resources are available for me, kind of thing. So that's great advice and some great resources. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have some personal questions for us. So I find that a lot of our students have parents that closely monitor them and just keep in like on the same level, keep tabs on them and might invade the privacy a little bit, but they're just trying to look out for their students. And a lot of our students are moving towards college. So, would you have any recommendations for assuring your parents that you will be mentally and academically well during college?
Absolutely. The biggest thing there is going to be communication and sitting down and having that honest conversation, and doing that whenever you are in a place of feeling calm and feeling sure of yourself, because that is a conversation that can quickly escalate. It's something that's very sensitive, um, for parents, that transition of you going to college, and also for you, because that's like that first step into the real world. So being able to sit down and kind of open that door to initiate the conversation of, hey, mom and dad, like, I know that you are worried about me, and I recognize that you're worried and that you want me to do my best, and you want me to continue to, succeed. And right now, I need you to trust me. I need you to trust me that if I need help, that I will come to you because I know I can come to you. And making it very intentional with what you're saying. Um, if you have that type of relationship where, it is that open door policy, doing that, or if, it is a more like structured relationship in your household, like starting it with like a text, it's like, hey, I want to talk about something. Do you have some time maybe after dinner where just the two of us could talk? And creating that space for that conversation and not letting it be just one conversation and done. Have it be something that you keep revisiting because it does change. I personally, when I first went to college, I got dropped off for orientation. And later on in the day, I texted mom, like, hey, I'm running to this place. And she's like, you're in college now. You don't have to tell me where you're going. And I was like, oh. But then later on in life, like I would still text my mom, like, hey, I'm running to this place. I'll let you know when I get there. It's finding that balance for you and having that conversation with your caregivers of what type of support you need while still acknowledging their effort and their love and care for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely recommend communication because it could be different for everyone. And just having that open line is so important, especially when you begin to attend college where it's a little further than your parents and it's a little more difficult to communicate with them. You're going to want to keep that line open so that you can assure them and make sure that they know you're safe because ultimately it's from a place of love the whole way. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I guess we could do one last question. I have a question that has been on a lot of the ambassadors' mind, and that is, how do you deal with procrastination? It's very big nowadays. It's this new craze. So everyone is procrastinating and scrolling on TikTok and avoiding the responsibilities. So do you have any recommendations for that?
With procrastination, because that is something that I'm so glad you brought that up, because especially if you are a high achiever, an overachiever, someone that's pushing themselves, you and procrastination are like this. Um, so with procrastination, it's important to do that self-reflection on what is that procrastinating, like what is the root of it. For some people, it's, well, if I procrastinate, then I get to a point where I get like an adrenaline rush and then I get everything done. And for others, it's, well, I push it off to the last minute because I know if I finish this a week ahead of time, I'm going to pick it apart until, I get to turn it in. So to really like reflect for yourself, like what need is that procrastination filling? Um, so for me, my procrastination was primarily being a perfectionist. And so I had to take that time to step back and set that limit for myself so I could get things done early and say, it's done. I'm submitting it. I'm walking away from it. So really learning like what need is your procrastination filling? What is it serving you? Because you wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't meeting a need. So take some time, think about what need is this meeting for me, and then start to change those patterns. It takes more than one time. You're essentially creating a new habit and being gentle with yourself during that time. So it might be something that you have your phone set up to, like lock if you're scrolling continuously for too long. Or it might be, writing down your due dates earlier in your planner so that it's like, okay, you give yourself that wiggle room, but also it helps to train you to get things done a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that's some great advice. I definitely think whenever I procrastinate, it's because the task is seemingly too hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost taking care of not trying to do anything hard. So that definitely doing some self-reflection and figuring out why you are actually procrastinating is definitely great advice and very helpful. Okay, well, as long as we don't have any more questions, I'm sure we can wrap up right now. Thank you so much, Claire, for helping us out in this webinar. We definitely needed some mental health resources, and I'm excited to share this with all of our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, guys.